Hey, everybody. Bill here with another episode of the Debrief. Today, I chat with Allison and Matt Powell, the CEO and Director of Operations of Bitwise. Check them out at bitwise.tech. So we just recently had the pleasure of working with Allison and Matt on their rebrand. It's been live for about a month now. So today we sit down and we talk about all things project related, how they found the right agency, what was the most challenging aspect. Fun fact, it was picking the color. You'll want to watch. You'll want to hear that part of the conversation. And what their main takeaways are now, having gone through a rebrand, how they feel about branding, and how it is helping them push their company forward. Enjoy. Hello. Here we are. Allison, Matt. Happy to be speaking with you all today. We're going to talk about Bitwise. We're going to talk about your project. But first, why don't you share a little bit with us? Tell us what's going on most recently with Bitwise and anything else you want to share about the company.
Yeah, thanks for having us. So I'm Matt. I'm the CEO, founder of Bitwise. We are primarily a government contractor. There are a number of different ways to kind of say what we do, but we do professional services and digital services, primarily software engineering, cloud analytics for federal government customers. We're based out of Maryland, and we've been in business since 2018. We got really kind of cooking in 2019, but that's where we are. And I'll let Allison introduce herself.
I'm Allison. I am the Director of Operations. I have zero technical background.
Makes her all the better.
But I bring the human aspect to the company because they can get really wrapped up into their technical lingo and acronyms. And I'm like, whoa.
Yeah.
Bring it back down.
Yeah.
But it's a great company and it's a new role for me, but I'm excited and we're ready to rock and roll since our launch literally a month and a couple days ago.
Yeah. Exciting times.
That was the big day.
Oh, cool. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
You had the opportunity. You had the opportunity to do the whole May the 4th be with you. You just waited an extra month. You could have.
Yeah. And it would have played to the audience too, man. Like, where were you? Where were you for the long?
God, such a missed opportunity. But we're capitalizing. I've got the blue lights on. You're rocking the shirts. I love the pocket tee. So good.
Quick shout out to Chase. He designed that tee for us. Chase Turbovelli, your guy, and we made it a reality after we launched. That was awesome.
Yeah, sometimes we do those in the project. You're throwing out ideas, and this is how it could be, and this is how it could be, and it's fun because you don't always intend for those things to actually be maybe like a real thing. It's awesome to see it in the flesh. All right, so let's talk about the project just to remind everybody what we're doing here. So the idea here is to have a very open, authentic conversation so that other people, whether they hire Focus Lab or not, doesn't matter, get a real perspective, get the real insights into what a branding project, regardless of whether it's a shorter one, longer one, et cetera, it doesn't matter, but what that's actually like to go through, right? Because it's all the things, and we're going to find out in this call. So the first question, we'll start in pre-project. First question is, how did you know? How did you know that you actually needed to go through a branding exercise?
Yeah, so this was a long time coming for us. We started this company like many companies start. We started it on sort of a shoestring budget with really not much more than a vision of what we wanted this company to end up being. And we kind of had a pretty good idea of how we wanted to get there, but our brand to begin was as DIY as any other startup company's brand. Our logo came from our friend 99 Designs. It was fine. It served its purpose. It got us off the ground. But for me, this industry is really, really crowded with other small business government contractors at a similar size and scope to us. And they're all kind of trying to do the same sort of stuff. So we've got that classic problem of differentiation, right? How do we differentiate ourselves in the market? And on top of that, we started to get some business. We started to hire in a few folks, and it felt like I've always had this philosophy that let's try to invest a little ahead of our growth. Let's take some of the capital that we're earning and let's kind of feed it right back into the company where, other maybe first time business owners in a similar situation might be a little bit more scared to do that. It's scary. Don't get me wrong. It's totally scary to invest time and money and effort into something like this when it might not necessarily be ultimately required. But for us, it was just sort of a line in the sand or a stake to say, hey, we're serious about building out this company and making it into something real and growing it in the right way. And so we're going to, at every milestone, if there's an opportunity to invest back into the company, we're going to take it. And so that all kind of culminated and we just kind of felt like it was the right time. If you have anything else to...
No, I agree. Yeah. And we also knew, that might lead into another question. We were originally Bitwise Creative, and creative were really serving us. We were getting some confusion. And so we knew we wanted to drop the creative and just go with Bitwise. And we just felt like the timing of it all worked out.
Yep.
Yeah.
We might as well do it all and do it right.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, and honestly, just to kind of put a cap on that, we kind of started with, hey, it might be time to get a new website. Like our website is.
Let's be clear, we really didn't have a website to start.
We had one, but it was barely a website. So we kind of said, okay, let's start here. We started talking to a couple of website, designers, and they're like, well, what do you want to say? On the website, like, what's the type of like angle you have here? We went, oh, well, isn't that, I was like, isn't that kind of your job? But no, it's not. It's 100% our job. And so then we started talking to other kind of folks in the branding marketing world. And they were like, okay, let's back up. Like, you have a great company. We hear you. You've got this great vision, but we're going to have to articulate this a little bit more clearly. And then let's lead into the actual like visual branding elements, for example.
Yeah, great. You've highlighted two important things. I'm happy for you all that you were able to kind of like see that journey for what it was, which is often people think they have a website problem, but it's not a website problem, right? It actually starts before that. So it's actually what we would say a brand problem. Let's figure out the story and the narrative and all those things, and then put that onto the website. So props to you for being able to kind of like precede that issue. And also props for you for taking the leap. I understand that fear that you were speaking about, which is we're going to invest in brand, but will it return dollars? Will it do the thing we needed to do? And it's always kind of like, we would say time has proven the answer, which is yes. But like, you still can't put your finger on it, right? Not so comfortably that everyone's like, oh, awesome. I know if I put in $1, I'm going to get 10 back. For every $1, I'll get 10 back. It's like, it should work. It works for other people. I hope it works for us. So there's a bit of a leap of faith, and props to you all for doing that so early too, right? Like some businesses don't learn that till very late in their cycles, which then you've got debt that you've got to make up for and other things that you have to account for. So you're fresh and clean from the start-ish.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep. And it feels good. It's like a confidence thing. It's 100% confidence that like now I can actually point people to our we have a new domain now, but we can point people to our website. We can, provide people with marketing material and not be concerned that they're going to maybe pass judgment on us for being like a very early startup or a DIY company. We can kind of move that to the side, take that space of the brain and put that towards something different.
We've got our act together. We have a singular, clear story. We know what we're doing and we care about it. Therefore, we've actually invested in it. And it's apparent that we have. There's a lot to be said for that. So was there a particular pain point, though? Like we talked about why you did it, but was there a real pain point, like a micro pain point that you were looking to solve with this other than what we just talked about?
Well, I will say, I think it's just what you talked about with confidence. I noticed just him coming home and talking about like who we met or who we networked with. He was being gun shy on pursuing certain opportunities. And I just saw it slowly building. And I was like, this is going to catch up with us and we're not going to hit our 1-year goal or 5-year goal. And I just knew his confidence wasn't there to really speak about, his company and what he was trying to build. And so for me, that I was like, we got to push more on this and get you feeling really good about it. So that's what I would say to that for sure.
Yeah.
Because he's really the one selling. Like I can't go on site because of
Security reasons.
So I can't sell the brand. I can't pitch to people or really recruit as efficiently as he can.
Mm-hmm.
And so he would he had to do it.
Yeah.
I needed him to feel really good about it and really have that like elevator pitch and feel good and want to like pass out those business cards. There's just confidence.
Yeah. They're always, to me, I mean, it kind of goes back to what I said before about sort of, paying a little ahead of your growth. There always has felt to me an urgency to, as soon as we have the resources that we, available, to create something that's a little bit more than the sum of its parts. What I do many days for some of our contract work is UX, user experience work and user interface work. And so, kind of coming at this from a little bit of a user experience perspective where it's like, I understand what it's like to visit a brand and not feel confident in it strictly based on how it's coming across, visually, content wise. And I just didn't want to I knew that we had more and I just needed us to have that element, and it was up to professionals to help us achieve it.
Yeah, great. I mean, our why statement at Focus Lab is to unlock the potential in the people around us. That's our singular why statement. And this is a prime example of that, right? Like we're not the hero. You're the hero of your story, but hopefully we can come in and help unlock that. So it seems like you've started that journey.
Yep.
Okay. So I always ask this question it can be a very self-serving question, which is like, what were you looking for in a rebrand partner? Which then implies, tell me all the good things about the company that we've created. But I don't necessarily need it to be that. But I do want listeners, viewers to understand, as they go out and look for a partner in a rebrand effort, like what were you looking for specifically?
It really comes down to the people. I mean, I'll be perfectly honest. We interviewed a lot of companies, some teams with like a bigger amount and some individuals that were freelancers. And for us, it's like you hit it off or you don't. That was really top priority for sure. And
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we talked to a lot of different teams and it had to feel right. There's no way to really articulate that. But it just kind of had to kind of mesh. And when we talked to Will, your chief growth officer, I think I got that right.
That's right.
He, he just made us feel super comfortable, in the interview and made us, he kind of framed things to us in a way that resonated, felt like he understood our industry a little bit better than other folks. I mean, this is a complex, nuanced industry as is. And to have him sort of listen and then sort of reiterate things back to us in a way that we could understand and maybe say better, say it better than we can even say it ourselves. It just felt like we were in good hands from the outset. And the other thing I would say, as maybe obvious as it is, we really wanted high quality. And you can throw a rock and hit some sort of branding agency or branding folks that will kind of do a new logo or design a new website, maybe even give you some content. We had a very unique process where I mentioned earlier, we kind of started at the beginning with some of the brand strategy. And, having kind of gone through the whole process, maybe there are a few things we do differently today, but on the budget that we had, we knew that we needed to at least get through brand strategy. And we did that outside of Focus Lab. We kind of started with this. Her name's Andrea Littell. She did a wonderful job sitting down with us and helping us understand what it is we were actually trying to do. And then listening to us kind of rant forever and kind of hammer out our ideas and get to something coherent. And then she kind of provided that to us. And then we turned that over to you all, and you all were able to kind of take it and run with it. So we needed that particular hand-holding through a very specific stage of the process. And you guys were well equipped to handle that for us and just felt like a good fit. So I think that's what ultimately kind of solidified the decision for us.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Yeah, I'm glad to hear that. We put a high amount of attention in regard into being the type of agency that is people focused, that is really there to serve the client, that is really proficient and really good at what it does, we do, but also extremely humble, right? So it has a certain feel that is very important to us. That even resonates all the way from the first sales call, right? Which even to say a sales call for us is kind of like, yucky word. Because that's just the type of group that we are. So I'm glad that resonated. You got Crazy Will on your call. Will's awesome. And it doesn't surprise me that y'all struck a chord with him. He's hard to not like.
Yeah. And I will say, just sort of through the process, there's so many things I've learned, not so much about I learned a ton about our company as well. But what I mean is I learned about how to provide really great customer service from you guys. I mean, there were so many quick tips and tricks that I got from
I love that.
interacting with you guys that I still used. Like my emoji per email count is way up. Just things that, you could feel the energy from you guys through the screen, and it was awesome, and the enthusiasm, and we have that enthusiasm. We have that. It's just a matter of finding really great ways to communicate. And anyway, there are just a bunch of little things that I won't, enumerate. But the point is, we got a lot from you guys. It was a really great experience.
Great. I'm really happy to hear that. There's an acronym that we use which you all heard, which is SAUCE at Focus Labs. So seek to achieve an unforgettable customer experience. And that's literally our biggest measurable in our entire company. When we have these quarterly presentations, which is next Tuesday for us, that's the big number that we look at. How many projects were unforgettable? Because we believe that everything below that comes true if you can achieve that one thing. So part of that is emojis and, animated GIFs in your deliverables and trying to have fun while you're in a long, challenging, complicated project, right? Let's make this enjoyable. Okay. So you found us. Great. We fell in love. We went on our first day. We're like, this is going to be awesome. And then we got into the project. So there's 3 questions of the in-project phase here that I'll ask you, starting out with the most challenging. What was the most challenging part of the project?
Oh,
Go ahead.
I was going to say, I thought we were going to say it at the same time. It's obvious to me what I think the most challenging part was. I mean, we could talk about a bunch of challenging things, as that is brand development, right? It's a challenge. We had this is going to sound completely superficial, so that's fine. We'll say it and move on. But, at the very end of the project, we had colors to pick. One of the things that we learned throughout this process was, let's operate out of our comfort zone, right? Let's stare our comfort zone in the face and let's send them out the door, because it's all about being differentiated and ideating on all these different things that can help us stand out in the market. And we got as far as we could in that process, and ultimately couldn't quite make the last leap onto this color palette that was really tremendous. It was awesome. It was this green color palette, green and limey yellow type as an accent color that Chase was like, come on, guys. He was like, let's wrap this up. And I think maybe 8 out of 10 clients might have gone for it. We chickened out, but the colors that we landed on were fantastic. But that last step was so emotional for us to try to make that final decision. So that's what I would say was certainly the most emotional and maybe the most challenging. We spent 48 hours. We neglected our kids, our family. We didn't eat or sleep. It was just colors.
Yeah, it was rough for a minute. But I'm so happy where we landed. It all worked out.
Yeah.
But I was going to say the same thing. The most challenging part was just how emotional it got. And the other thing that always stood out to me is at some point, I think it's fairly early on, Chase said, sometimes you have to look at a design, sit with it, and learn to let it grow on you. It's not always going to be out of the gate hit.
That's right.
And that was really hard for me to grasp. I was I'm usually either I like it or I don't, and let's move on. And he's like, no, sit with it and digest it. And I was like, no, I don't like it. Move on. So that for me personally was a learning thing.
Yeah, it's a control. It's a control.
I won't comment on that, but yes, it's interesting to see. You never know what's going to trip people up, Quite honestly,
Yeah.
you just actually don't. Everyone's different. Humans are different. They're complicated. Sometimes it's color. Sometimes it's shape, right? Logos. Sometimes it's words, communication stuff. Are we positioned accurately? But there's a lot of fear in there, appropriately so, quite honestly, right? Like these are big decisions and you can go back on them, but you certainly don't want to, right? You're not going to print all that stuff out and change your whole website only to realize like, oh, well, I'm going to change my mind now. So you want to get it right. And in that moment of really wanting to get it right, you're at the edge of the cliff and you're like, I got to get this right. So there is a lot of emotion that happens in that moment. Hopefully, and this is part of our job, is to help you through that, right? We are more than just wordsmiths and designers and writers and strategists. We are also what we start to call kind of like Sherpas, therapists, shepherds, all these things, right? Like we're building and we're helping at the same time. So hopefully we were helpful in that effort. I think we were, right? And so our job ultimately is also not to say like, you should pick this. We know the best answers. You have to live with it at the end of the day.
Well, and just to the last thing on that is at the very last minute, it was a beautiful surprise when we got our final brand guideline deliverable from Focus Lab. Chase had snuck in the green as a secondary color at the end of our palette. And it worked. Like no one had, even through the whole crisis of color, no one had ever considered, well, why don't we just add green as a secondary color to your blue palette? You know?
Uh-huh.
And then I think he had the light bulb at some point, and it was a nice little surprise. Like I know he kind of did it to kind of surprise us, which was great.
Well, that's a perfect bridge to the next question, which, well, actually the next one's what's most rewarding, but, all right, well, let's go rewarding first. So what was the most rewarding aspect of the project?
What was the most rewarding? I mean, I think for us to be able to, it kind of goes back to what I was saying before, to be able to take a finished brand and put it out into the world. That was a really fun week. You know, when we kind of had our coming out posts on LinkedIn, we were able to hit the go button on the website. We have gotten a tremendous amount, more than even I was expecting, amount of positive feedback from our network. And, you know, that has been a really fun experience. And I guess the other thing is it was an unexpected opportunity to kind of reconnect with a bunch of folks that we had kind of you know what I mean? Like almost as a byproduct of not feeling really great about our brand. We didn't want to share it as widely as we wanted to. Now that we have all this, like, you know, sort of confidence to kind of go out and hit the circuit, as it were, we're hearing from a lot of people that we didn't hear from for a long time that we had kind of lost touch with. And so that's been another sort of like unexpected byproduct of the whole thing. So just having, I think just at the end of the day, having a brand that feels really good and being able to get the feedback and to be able to actually push on and grow this company, I just feel like it was such a hurdle for a while. That feels like it's been the best thing for me.
Yeah, seeing it come to life, it's just been a joy. And of course, working with all the amazing Focus Lab people, you know, and just making those connections and learning. And it just has opened our eyes up to so much. And it's really been for the better. So it's just been a great process.
Yeah. And I will also say, you know, we've got an handful of employees and they're our lifeblood, as they are for any, you know, good organization. And we have gotten a lot of really great feedback from them as well. You know, we worked with them here and there throughout the process. You know, we didn't want to bog them down too much in the minutia, but, you know, to have their support and to see them be so engaged now with us and the brand and the company, it's just been, it truly feels, it's kind of cliche to say you've like started a new chapter, but it a little bit does feel like we've turned a page and that we are
absolutely
kind of ahead, you know, with this weight lifted sort of thing.
Yeah. Love it. Everybody's rowing in the same direction kind of feel, right? You can feel that propulsion, that momentum. Yeah. Love that.
Yeah, exactly.
So without it being color, what was the most surprising? What did you not foresee? Either part of the process, part of the success, part of the challenges. What was the most surprising aspect?
For me, it was the speed at which we needed to make decisions. The cadence of the process for us was a ball of stress from cadence. Necessarily so, I can't imagine it not being a ball of stress, even if it's a year. We work with Focus Lab through effectively a brand design sprint. And it was a shorter, more condensed process that required a lot more focus and a lot more decision making. It required very fast decision making is what I'm trying to say. So every week we had a new deliverable, from you guys, and every weekend we needed to buckle down, and make some really, really tough decisions, and knowing that every single decision that we made ultimately dictated a very specific direction for our brand. And so for me, I think the most surprising, I knew that it would be, I knew I'd need to make decisions. I just felt like it was a lot, to work through really quickly. So that was it for me for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, I would agree with that. So I'm a little more decisive. Like I said, Chase really had to be like, no, sit with it for a minute out. You don't need to give me feedback the day after I give it to you.
Yeah.
So I was ready to go. But you definitely struggled a little more with the timing. But also the sprint was a perfect, length of time for us and where we were at. And not a lot of companies, I guess that goes back to, why we landed with Focus Lab. That was unique, I find, to you guys. And it was really attractive for us. Because we knew we had a certain amount of time that we had to get it done. And this sprint was just the way to go.
Right. Yeah. We, we had been working through brand related things for 9 months, probably, kind of on and off with our brand strategist. There was a certain level of urgency for us to kind of try to put a bow on it. And so anyway, yeah, it was a really quick process, but ultimately it was probably for the better. You would think as a CEO, I'd be really good at making really high quality, quick decisions, but it's so emotional, it's an embodiment of everything that you care about. You pour everything into your company, everything, not just business stuff. You pour your family, your life, your time, your money. It's all there. And it's I think I told Chase and Charisse a couple of times throughout this process, I've helped to name 3 children at this point. And I had a much easier time with those decisions. Picking a direction, and it's very similar. It's very similar. It's just you get so much tied up in your company that you want it, and you've got such specific vision for it that you feel like you owe it the justice to make the best decision that you can.
It doesn't surprise me that was the most challenging. I think that's probably true for most, quite honestly, because there are big decisions to be made. And with our cadence, which is really dependable, right? This week to week to week to week cadence, it just goes, right? Friday to Monday, Friday to Monday. Friday. You ship stuff and you talk about it. You ship stuff and you talk about it. There's a bit of a forced hand in there, but I heard you say it in there somewhere, which was in some ways that is good though, right? Because it's it feels uncomfortable, but it's good. It's a natural, mostly positive tension of okay, we've got to actually make decisions to get to the place we're trying to go. Or else, if there were no boundaries, right, all of us, Focus Lab included, would be let's just spend a year on it. If money and time didn't matter, right, we'd sit on things forever and never make any decisions. So that cadence really keeps everybody in check while still obviously trying to have as much flexibility that would make sense as saying okay, that's fine. Let's spend more time on color. Let's make sure we get that right. Let's make sure you're comfortable. And okay, so post project, how is the new brand performing so far?
Well, I kind of already touched on it. I mean, we got tons and tons of good feedback. So I guess let's back up just a moment. So the way our business is very reliant on really strong personnel. That's the type of business that we're trying to build. The business model typically for smaller government contractors like us is to secure really high quality contract work that's interesting, that's fulfilling, that people can excel doing, and then to bring on as many people as you feel like you need to bring on to get that work done in a really great way. And so when we came to Focus Lab, even before we'd come to Focus Lab, I would say at some point last year, the amount of work that we had available to us to be able to work on outpaced the number of people that we had available to work on it. And that's mostly related to very sort of inside baseball type problem, but in the government contracting world, there's security clearances and there are only so many people with those security clearances. And so, when you've got a lot of positions open and available and only a small set of folks that can actually work on them, hiring becomes very challenging and highly competitive. And so, one of the, we talked to Focus Lab very early on, we've got this company, we're incredibly employee focused, we're incredibly human focused, which is, I think, a big differentiator for us in our market that, it's typically very transactional in the way that you hire and staff people onto contracts. That felt like it was not the right way to live a life. And so we built a company that doesn't treat people quite that way. But so it was always a priority for us to build a company that can hire people in. One of the metrics that we use for success is interest in the company and the amount of people that we have sort of showing up at our door and saying, hey, like that looks like it's a really great company. Is there, are you hiring? Or ultimately, how many people are we onboarding? And so we can report now we've had at least one signed offer in the last month since launch.
30 days launch.
Which is
great.
Which is incredible. Like a good year is maybe one or two hires at our size.
Wow.
So we're, within 30 days, we're in really great shape, and we are putting out feelers for folks that we can bring on internally that can help us grow and build our staff. And so I think it all kind of comes back to the momentum is there now, man. Like we're charging forward. We've got lots of interest. We're making connections. We've done a lot of networking that we weren't doing previously. And things are, in general, things just feel really, really good. Like we almost sort of put stuff off for a while, kind of waiting for the brand to launch, just kind of going, well, why would we do this, make these big moves now? Like they may be even more impactful if we wait another 2 or 3 months and then do them then. So we had all this stuff sort of queued up. And now that we're doing it, it's just sort of, it's feeling really good. So, yeah.
I love that you spoke about the hiring and the recruiting aspect. It seems that more people are starting to realize that is a strong benefit of a rebrand. But most, at least historically, think rebrand's going to help me get more customers or more revenue. It's very much like an external facing, let me drive dollars kind of thing. But there's so much value to that internal, how you position your company, how that brand resonates with people that want to join your organization.
100%.
And it sounds like that's probably where you might even get more bang for your buck there, which is good, right? Like everyone has a different need. Brand can serve a variety of needs. I'm happy you spoke to that. Thanks for sharing that.
Yeah, you're welcome. It's been an incredible ride, in the last month, and it's not even our recruiting has been fantastic. Like I feel like we've got a lot of momentum there, but just to go back to like the people that are already working for us, like there's just this energy now.
Yes.
That's really, really good inside the company.
And clarity as well. Like we just have that North Star that was a little fuzzy before, but now we all kind of know where we're going.
Yep.
Yeah, I've said this to the past couple of people that I've spoken to, but I can't help but say it because we just rebranded ourselves as well, right? In October of 2020 into April of 21, we were rebranding ourselves. I now even more intimately understand that feeling. I always knew it to be true, right? Like a brand company. I knew that what we were doing was valuable and would bring clarity. But having relived it again so recently, I relish in that clarity too, knowing what flag I'm carrying and why I'm carrying it and where I'm going to carry it to. There is a weight that comes off your shoulders when you know that. You're like, oh, God, this is refreshing. This is awesome.
Yeah. And it really goes down to the tiniest detail, like just everyday decisions of like how you're going to respond to someone or who you're going to reach out to or what event you're going to commit to. Like that all is tied to the brand and your ethos and just all wrapped up in a nice little bow, and it feels really good. It helps us make decisions now.
Yeah, that is
Yes.
that's such an insightful point. I've never really kind of heard that articulate. No, I mean, you're right. Like even the meetings, down to the meetings that you take, like if there's someone that, reaches out that's interested in working with you or even working for you, if there's something there that just doesn't seem to align with your values, like going through this process, we knew our values, like we just probably couldn't have said them very articulately. And so having that we can sort of refer to, as you said, the North Star has been incredibly, it brings a ton of clarity to the process.
Yeah. Great. Well, I think we did it. So my last question, and this kind of goes back to the listeners, the viewers, if you were going to speak, now remove me, I'm going to pass the mic solely to the both of you. If you're going to be speaking to somebody that's like, hey, I think I'm going to go through a rebrand, Focus Lab aside, what would you tell them? What would your words of wisdom be to that person or people that they should be thinking about, considering, avoiding as they enter a rebrand?
Yeah, I mean, I think know your company, know it really, really well. Know what you're trying to achieve. Being able to articulate it is one thing, but just at least knowing it internally and being able to word vomit it to someone for at least a few minutes to have them sort of understand what it is that you're trying to achieve is super important. If you go into this process without a really clear idea or a clear vision, then I think ultimately the brand is not going to reflect that. I think the brand will ultimately suffer. Either it's going to come out in content, and you're not going to be consistent in your content, or ultimately it may just even be a visual thing, like your visual identity may not, jive with your tone or whatever. I just think that it's incredibly important to be, as assuming it's a leader of the company that's coming forward, they just really need to have a very clear idea of what it is they're trying to achieve. And then I think that makes the process much easier. We had a pretty good idea, but, working through brand strategy was probably ultimately the best thing we could have done early on to try to suss out all those details. And I've said it to Allison a few times throughout this whole process. Like, I feel like if we could do it again, you know what I mean? Like
That much better.
it would be that much better. Like we're going through the process, it's like we kind of paved the road through that first pass, right? And if we could then drive on that road a second time, it would be just, it'd be so smooth and clean, and we might, so I guess the point is, as much of that work you can kind of work through ahead of time is super helpful.
Okay. Wonderful. Great words of advice. I agree with all of those. +1, +2, +3. All right. That's it. We're done here. Thank you all. I'll just finish with just saying thank you for trusting Focus Lab with this important journey of yours. Like, we know how important and special and emotional and big these decisions are. So thank you for trusting us with that. We look forward to following along, to supporting.
Thank you for having us. We appreciate it.
Yeah, it's been a treat.
All right. We'll see you out there.
Okay.
Bye.